John Gordon, welcome into the show, sir. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. How are you today, Jimmy?
I'm good. I'm so confused. I'm going to take a mental health day. I've got messages popping in on my phone. I was up at 4 a.m. with messages from Africa, and I got messages from, I don't know what's going on, John Gordon. I don't know.
I can't help you. I'm similarly plagued.
Well, that makes dose of us. We may have to reschedule Michael because I think what I'm reading, I think, is Michael had something else come in and needed to step in early. And if that's the case, we have to reschedule Michael. I'm not sure. I can't read it right now, John. I can't do it. John, how the heck are you, sir? Glad to have you. You host The Truth with John Gordon. Talk about it. Talk about your podcast, your show that you do.
Well, we come to you every Saturday and Sunday on the John Fredericks Media Network in 9 cities on 24 AM and FM radio stations up and down the East Coast. We're also on cdm.press as well as the usual suspects on social media where we live stream, YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, Getter. So I hope your listeners will give us a tune in. And we talk about the topics of the day and similar things that you're discussing this morning.
Let's talk about some of those things. With the war in Iran, a lot of folks are kind of forgetting, and Congress is getting off the hook there for the dysfunction of shutting down part of the government and the TSA agents who are, for the most part, just hardworking, average middle Americans out there trying to do a job. They're having their paychecks played with by politicians. Give me your thoughts. I think there should be a bigger story. I understand that we have jets flying and missiles flying, and that's sexier, but hurting the average working folk at the airport and risking security and travel plans in the airport across America is problematic. Give me your thoughts.
Well, I'm less concerned about the TSA agents than I am about the American public that are traveling, and they want to have an expectation of safety, and they also want their flights to depart and arrive on time. And it seems like we get the short end of the stick every time that there's an issue. It seems that they're always concerned about topics other than the citizens that they have sworn an oath to be fair with and treat well. And they just often seem to put us at the bottom of the stack, and it gets old pretty quick.
Yeah. Another thing that Congress is being lethargic on is that they're letting this filibuster threshold get in the way of passing the Save America Act, which would just simply cause people to have a voter ID an ID to get registered to vote and to cast a ballot in America. And you've got a majority, but you don't have that filibuster clear 60 votes. Supposedly it's all going to the floor this week. Congress should be ashamed of themselves. Republicans should be ashamed of themselves. Florida is doing something to, at least in Florida's world, they're going to make sure that they have voter ID. Talk about what's happening in Florida and the dysfunction in Washington, D.C. when it comes to the sanctity of our elections.
Well, they say that it's voter suppression, but really what it is the Democrats are just telling you openly and very transparently that they want to cheat and they intend to cheat. And that's why they oppose the voter ID rule. 97%, maybe 98% of America have a form of government ID, and the other 2% can get one for free. They just have to go to someplace and present themselves with a birth certificate or a utility bill, some way to validate that they are who they say they are. And so it's really pretty ludicrous that they would come up with these excuses not to engage in a voter ID. Most of the people that don't have a voter ID are pretty low propensity voters, like homeless people and people that suffer from mental illness that can't get out of bed or don't really care about voting and supporting their democracy. So I'm not terribly concerned about the 2%. What I'm more concerned about are the illegal voting votes that take place, like that occurred in Georgia in 2020, where we had 400,000 illegal votes in an election that was decided by less than 12,000 people. So that, to me, is where the emphasis should be. I get sick and tired of the Democrats' lies and their manipulation and their spin, and they've run out of tools. There are no tools left in their tool basket. So they have to resort to lies. And I think that's what we're seeing. And I hope that the voters, regardless of your political persuasion, if we got to start a conversation in America and answer the question on what can we agree? Can we agree that we're not going to kill people, that we're not going to kill each other? Let's start there. And then go on down the line, that we're going to be faithful to our spouse, that we're not going to lie, that we're going to protect the sanctity of the franchise. Because if we're not, then it just becomes a competition to see who can cheat the most. But the Democrats need to get back to the basics and learn to compete in the marketplace for ideas and debate the ideas and win on that basis rather than on gaming the system.
I'm sitting here thinking, John Gordon, that we should have a discussion about voter ID, sanctity of elections, and all of the stuff. We know that there's some things that have happened. There's video footage captured by congressional observers as being talked about at the justthenews.com, John Solomon's site, about Arizona, Maricopa County in 2024. Performing signature verification, some troubling video out there. So we know that in pockets or maybe widespread, we have some difficulty with the sanctity of our elections. But John, we've gotten to this place to where rather than having a discussion of ideas, here, we just get, if you bring up, let's have a discussion, they go racist, bigot, homophobe, you just get name called. No one on the other side wants to have a discussion.
I don't care. Call me anything you want. Charlie Kirk and I had that very conversation over a year ago. All the sexist, misogynist, racist, homophobe, yak. You just have to get to the point where you don't care. You know, when we learned as first graders, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Let's just get back to that premise. So I'm not going to be manipulated or cajoled into not telling the truth. I'm not going to be manipulated into not saying that opposing voter ID is the equivalent of saying that you're going to cheat. And so if that is bigotry, then so be it. I mean, I just don't care anymore.
Yeah. John Gordon is my guest. We'll talk more about his show in just a moment. John, one thing I think we're scheduled. We had technical difficulties, or you had some troubles getting on the program last week. But the last couple of weeks, Kristi Noem has been deemed transferred. Let's call persona non grata, but transferred. She got a reassignment. Demoted in the Trump administration. There's a lot of talk that, again, the war's kind of taken off the headline, but Kristi Noem, she crossed a couple of red lines, and I know that's what we were going to talk about last week. Give me your thoughts about the demotion of Kristi Noem. And again, you would think that reopen the airports or reopen the TSA or reopen that part of the government, but they're not. Give me your thoughts on the departure of Kristi Noem.
Well, I think they do need to open back up the Department of Homeland Security. That is inexcusable. That in a period of heightened alertness for terrorism, that they are suspending the department that is supposed to keep us safe. We know that there are bad actors in our country right now, and to not have them engaged is inexcusable. So, but on Kristi Noem, it got messy. I mean, let's just be real. She's having an extramarital affair that I've read is the worst kept secret in Washington with Corey Lewandowski, who I consider a friend. He was my campaign consultant when I ran for Attorney General in Georgia 2 years ago. With President Trump's endorsement. I think President Trump really does regard Corey as a fourth son, if you will. He managed President Trump's campaign in 2016 and did a phenomenal job. Trump probably would not have been president then and probably not now were it not for Corey's good work. A lot of people can take credit as well. It wasn't just Corey, but I mean, like Donald Trump, he gets the majority of the credit. But Corey is a very smart, gifted, good-looking guy that's fun to talk to and be around. And he's just got an issue with self-discipline when it comes to the opposite sex. This is not his first rodeo and not the first time it has blown up on him. And I think that has a lot to do with what happened to Kristi Noem. But also, she was in the perfect storm. And I think she made a tactical error in that she was on the ground in Minneapolis. Tom Homan should have been on the ground in Minneapolis. He should have been the one taking the flak. And then Kristi Noem should have been the one to go in and make peace and be the savior. The model got flipped upside down, and Tom Homan got put in that role to go in and look like the hero. And I felt like that was a disservice to Kristi Noem. I actually think that, and I applaud their efforts. I don't celebrate the death of anyone, and certainly the lady that lost her life. I feel horrible for her and her family, but she made a fatal mistake. She made an impulsive decision to use her car as a lethal weapon. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry for her. I'm really sorry for the cop that had to go to the hospital whom she struck with her car before he then used his service revolver to shoot her, as would have I or any other rational human being that was there doing his job and was being attacked with an automobile. I mean, why are we even having this conversation? And then the other guy went home to get his pistol and wore it in his belt loop, and then decided to insert himself into a law enforcement effort to subdue or detain someone. Well, there are just certain things in life that that you do not do. You don't put your finger in a light socket. You don't behave inappropriately toward a member of the opposite sex. And you damn sure don't get between a cop and the person he's trying to arrest. And so he was wrestled to the ground in the process. One of the officers actually removed the pistol from his belt loop, and then less than a second later, he was shot and killed by a nice officer. And it's very regrettable, but you have choices in life. And when you make bad choices, oftentimes you get regrettable results. And I think that's what happened. In the case of the lady, there's nothing to debate. It was a clear case of a really self-defense by the police officer. With the guy, it is a closer case because the gun had been removed from his belt, but the tensions were very high, and the officer that used his weapon had less than a second to react. I don't know whether he was reacting to the fact that the gun came out of the belt loop and he didn't realize that it was a member of his own detail that had it, or whether he just saw the gun come out of the belt loop and made a very quick decision to defend himself. So, but on balance, I favor the action of the police officer, but that doesn't stop me from having compassion with the deceased and his family. But the American people asked President Trump to close the border, and they asked him to deport 18 million people. And do you think it's going to be some sort of a kumbaya party? You think it's just going to happen peacefully and without? But those people that showed up there were there to make trouble, and they got trouble. I'm sorry.
John Gordon is my guest. Again, we'll talk about his show. He's the host of the syndicated radio show, The Truth with John Gordon. Also, you can find him online. He ran as a Republican candidate to be Georgia's Attorney General in 2022, was endorsed by President Trump. He currently lives in Palm Beach, Florida. John Gordon, it is always a pleasure. I'm glad we were able to connect today. And thank you for your understanding, as I was juggling. You're right on time, and you're right where you're supposed to be. So I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jimmy. And I'm sorry about last week. We moved into our new studio, and we were having a colossal of technical issues. So thanks for your patience.
It sounds like my Monday today. Yeah,
it's always a privilege to be with you. I think
you got it. We'll do it again, John. Appreciate you, John Gordon. If folks want to watch the show, they can go figure out where you're at. They should go to johngordon.tv. Johngordon.tv. Is that correct?
You can, for all the past episodes, if you want to watch us in real time. come to rumble.com or getter.com, YouTube, facebook.com. We live stream there every Saturday from noon to 2. And on Getter, you can even interact with us and tell me how brilliant I am in the comments, or that you think I'm full of it. Either way, I'd like to hear from you. Write me, johngordontruth@gmail.com.
JohnGordon.tv, JohnGordonTruth@gmail.com. John, appreciate you hopping in the program. Thank you very much.